This is degaris, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is, 2-3-page essays on the themes of Masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo degaris. This is flyer number 256, entitled The Masculist Inquisition, Part 2. Carrying straight on. The smartest of the masculists are smarter than the smartest of the feminists, simply because they are men. Women cannot compete with men at the top end of the performance scale. The genii are males, due to men's 4 IQ point greater average IQ than women's, and men's 10% higher IQ variance. So men's IQ scores are more spread out than women's. Women's are more bunched up. So the extreme IQ scores, both low and high, are male dominated. J. Once the masculists dominate the gender political stage, the tide will turn against the hated fluffy feminist hypocrites, and tremendous moral pressure will be exerted by society on women to become moral, to fip up, to shift their fat parasitic asses by bothering to get a career-competent education, which is something that in today's world, that's 2020, 3/4 of young women at age 16 in high school do not bother to do, choosing instead to study fluffy crap majors, which makes them fluffy crappers, who will not get a career-competent diploma nor a skill that the economy values. So that these fluffy crappers, would expect to parasite off some gullible manslave when she is in her 30s suffering baby rabies. K. These fluffy crappers will face a very different culture and social expectation on them once gender politics have been taken over by the masculists, who have established the Masculist Inquisition. Instead of being able to sexploit some gullible manslave, as is the case today in 2020, a ton of bricks will fall on her as the Masculist Inquisition takes up her case and delivers its verdict. L. Fluffy crappers and fluffy feminist hypocrites, in brackets, who want equal rights with men in the parliaments but expect to be able to sexploit her ex-husband in the divorce courts, close brackets, will be punished by the Masculist Inquisition. The gender laws will have changed by then, so that not only will these divorcing fluffy crappers not be able to sexploit and financially crucify their ex-husbands, but the law will punish them. Those women who have not bothered to become FIPs will be penalised by the divorce courts. M. Social pressure against fluffy and fluffy feminists will be strong. Such women will be spat at, especially by masculists, as well as by female masculists, who see fluffies as the indirect cause of their babylessness. The female masculists will accept the argument coming from the masculists that it is the hated fluffy feminist hypocrites in the divorce courts who have caused men to reject marriage and paternity. In brackets, 2/3 of young men now, 2020, in many Western countries, and growing. In brackets, by making divorce and hence marriage so toxic for men that now only fools and ignorant men marry and have kids. Smart men avoid marriage and paternity like the plague, since a 1 in 4 chance of losing their kids and being financially crucified by the hated fluffy feminists is totally unacceptable. N. The masculist groups at the universities harangue the fluffy feminists on campus, spitting bile at them for their hated fluffy feminist hypocrisy, still seeing men as cash machines to pay for women to have babies. Masculism takes over the campuses as men become collectively angry at women. I've always thought that, quote, when men become collectively angry at women, God help women! Exclamation mark. The ultimate backup of the law is male force, that is, male cops. But when those male cops themselves go masculist, which is now definitely on the cards, then there'll be no more white knights to help women financially crucify men in the fluffy feminist divorce courts, etc. O. The gender political tide turns with a vengeance as men collectively rise up in real anger as their masculinist consciousnesses get raised due to a flood of media attention generated by populations seriously falling due to the paternity rejection caused directly by the Masculists and MGTOWs, but indirectly by the fluffy feminist hypocrisy in the divorce courts, having made them toxic for divorcing fathers. P. Millions of men will go masculist and put strong moral pressure on the gender politicians to menfair the gender laws. These men will not tolerate public expressions of feminazis against men and will jeer them out of the room with considerable male verbal venom. Later, the more extreme masculists in the audience will just bitch slap them to the ground with no warning. So strong will the hatred be of masculists towards these man-slaving hypocrites, these slavers, these vermin. Q. Women, especially the smarter ones, will see the writing on the wall as they see women losing support from the courts, from the police and society in general, as masculism takes over gender politics and exerts enormous media and social pressure on women to fip up, to become emo fips, or pay a very, very heavy price of not only not getting a man, with all that implies, in brackets, that is, no love, no sex, no baby, in brackets, but being socially shunned, pariahed, banished, cast out, and finally condemned by the Masculist Inquisition. R. Once all the above steps have taken place, then the Masculist Inquisition can then introduce new masculist laws that punish fluffies for being fluffies. For example, they are less likely to get 50-50 custody of the kids after a divorce. They receive less welfare payments from governments because they did not bother fipping when they were younger. They receive lower pensions because they are classified as fluffy parasites, etc. The Masculist Inquisition will be creative with its legal and governmental punishments of fluffies and fluffy feminists, aiming to create such moral and social contempt for them that they die out. S. It's not for nothing that the term Masculist Inquisition was chosen. Its main aim is to wipe out gender political heresy in the form of fluffydom, and especially fluffy feminism, with all its hated hypocrisy. The Spanish Inquisition was set up largely to rid Spain of heretics, which is why the Jews and Islamists were forced either to convert to Christianity or to leave the country. Similarly, the Masculist Inquisition will force women to fip up or to be cast out. The Spanish Inquisition even killed the more extreme cases of heresy. One of the major aims of the Masculist Inquisition is to wipe out believers in fluffydom and fluffy feminism. Some women are such utter feminazi hypocritical bitches, such misandrous male-dumping zealots out to destroy men, seeing men as toxic, that a Masculist Inquisition may even burn them as feminazi witches, the way the Roman Catholic Church burned Bruno. Remember, manslavery is slavery. Slavery rouses passions. Slavery is a war issue to the masculists, and masculists are at war against the fluffies and fluffy feminists. In wars, people get killed. In the Spanish Inquisition, witches were burned as heretics. In the Masculist Inquisition, feminazi witches will be burned for similar reasons. Masculists have such a hatred of fluffy and fluffy feminist manslavers that we will kill them. And in capital letters for emphasis. No culture that financially crucifies a quarter of its fathers can remain intact. There will be a sex war. There will be a Masculist Inquisition. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo deGaris. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. Author of the book Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Man's Slaves to Women, an e-textbook of 350 plus Masculist flyers for men's studies courses, freely downloadable in Microsoft Word format from my website. Ciao.